Good evening, everyone. Your entire relationship with survival is about to get completely rewritten, isn't it? Not just improved or made easier, but fundamentally transformed from grinding to thriving, from working because you have to, into choosing what you do because you want to. And what's approaching isn't fantasy or delusion, but actual concrete shift in your circumstances that's going to make traditional employment optional rather than mandatory for the first time in your adult life. Let me share what I'm detecting in the abundance revolution surrounding your existence right now. The first massive shift breaking through is you're approaching financial breakthrough that changes the entire game. You're probably already sensing movement in your money situation that's different from normal fluctuations, opportunity presenting itself that's scaled way bigger than your current income, passive income streams starting to generate serious revenue, investment appreciating dramatically, inheritance or windfall or business success creating capital you've never had access to before. You might be experiencing this surreal recognition that the math is actually changing, where monthly income from sources that don't require your active labor is approaching or exceeding what you make from traditional work. And that crossover point where you could theoretically survive without job is simultaneously the most exciting and most terrifying threshold you've ever approached. Here's the extraordinary truth about what you're actually experiencing. You're being invited into life where your time belongs to you. You're probably going to discover freedom you didn't know was possible, ability to wake up without alarm, to structure your days around what energizes you rather than what pays bills, to pursue passions that don't generate income because you don't need them to travel when you want for as long as you want, to say no to anything that drains you without financial consequences. You might be approaching the soft life everyone talks about, but few actually achieve, where your biggest decision is whether to work on creative project in morning or afternoon, where stress comes from choosing between appealing options rather than from tolerating terrible ones because you need the money. Um, what's igniting in the prosperity circuits is multiple income sources converging to create financial security without traditional employment. You're probably experiencing or about to experience money flowing from several directions simultaneously: rental income, investment dividends, royalties from creative work, passive business revenue, strategic partnerships that pay you without requiring full time commitment. And that diversification is what makes this sustainable rather than precarious. You might be building portfolio of income streams that collectively exceed what job provided while individually requiring minimal ongoing effort. And understanding that wealth isn't about one big score, but about creating systems that generate consistent cash flow without consuming your life is the mindset shift that makes soft life actually work long term. This reflection invites you to consider is less than hash zero. 5 hash is greater than what you'll actually do with yourself when work becomes optional. And whether you've built identity and purpose that can survive not needing job, or whether you're going to discover that work was providing structure and meaning, you'll need to consciously replace with something else. You're probably noticing yourself already starting to think differently about time and money. You might be catching yourself calculating how long you could survive without working, researching what financial independence actually requires, running numbers on different scenarios. And that shift from accepting employment as a permanent fixture to treating it as a temporary phase you're actively planning to exit is radical change in consciousness. You could be experiencing yourself making different choices already, investing more aggressively, building skills that create passive income, networking with people who've already achieved financial independence, and recognizing that you're not just daydreaming anymore. You're actually executing on vision of life without mandatory work. What's also exploding is recognition that you deserve this. You're probably battling voices that say people like you don't get to stop working, that soft life is for trust fund kids or lucky people, that you should be grateful for job and stop being entitled. But what if those voices are just internalized poverty programming trying to keep you in place? You might be discovering that plenty of regular people create financial independence through strategy and persistence, that wealth isn't only for people born into it is less than Hesson. Zero hash is greater than, and allowing yourself to believe you can join their ranks instead of remaining in working class forever is first step toward actually making it happen. What's particularly extraordinary about what I'm witnessing is specific opportunity or development that's accelerating your timeline dramatically. You're probably approaching or have recently encountered something that compressed what you thought would take 20 years into 2 or 3 business, taking off faster than projected, investment multiplying beyond expectations, opportunity appearing that leapfrogs you past years of grinding, and experiencing that acceleration is teaching you that linear assumptions about wealth building don't account for exponential possibilities. You might be learning that wealth can happen suddenly after a long period of invisible preparation. That overnight success is usually decade in the making. And recognizing you're approaching harvest of all those years you spent planting seeds is helping you understand this isn't luck, it's earned, even if timing feels miraculous. Um, you're probably experiencing fear mixed with excitement. You might be terrified of actually leaving job, of losing security, of regular paycheck, of discovering you miscalculated and running out of money. But you're also experiencing this pull toward freedom that's getting stronger than your fear. You could be recognizing that staying in job you've outgrown because it's safe is its own kind of risk. That playing it safe keeps you stuck while taking calculated risk toward financial independence could actually be safer long term because you're building assets and income streams that can't fire you the way employer can. What's threading through the abundance architecture is you're being called to think bigger about what's possible. You're probably realizing that soft life isn't just about not working, it's about designing life around your actual values and desires, which might include work you love, or creative projects, or service that matters to you, or absolutely nothing productive if that's what brings you joy. You might be understanding that financial freedom is really just freedom to choose And once money is handled, you get to build life based on what you actually want rather than what you can afford or what's required to survive. This reflection invites you to consider what you'd do if money wasn't factor in any decision you made, and whether you're brave enough to start moving toward that life now instead of waiting until you feel completely secure, because complete security might never arrive if you're always moving the goalpost on what enough means. You're probably noticing yourself already sampling elements of soft life. You might be taking more vacation days, saying no to overtime, prioritizing rest over hustle, spending money on experiences that bring joy instead of just saving every penny. And these small acts of living like you're already financially free are actually training ground for when you actually are. You could be practicing abundance mindset in ways that prepare your psychology to handle actual abundance, and recognizing that how you relate to money now is how you'll relate to it when you have more, is helping you develop healthy, wealthy habits before wealth fully arrives. What's also combusting is your network expanding to include people who've already exited traditional employment. You're probably connecting with entrepreneurs, investors, digital nomads, early retirees, people who've proven that working until 65 isn't only option. And being around people who've done what you're trying to do is giving you both tactical knowledge and psychological permission. You might be learning specific strategies they used, mistakes they made, mindsets they had to develop, and understanding that path to financial independence has been mapped by others before you means you're not pioneering unknown territory. You're following established route that requires execution more than innovation. The wealth acceleration patterns suggest you're experiencing or about to experience income that doesn't correlate to hours worked. You're probably discovering the magic of leverage, creating something once that pays you repeatedly, building system that runs without you, investing money that makes more money, and experiencing firsthand that trading time for money has ceiling while leveraged income has potential for exponential growth is shifting your entire approach to how you generate revenue. You might be moving from a linear income model where you get paid for what you do to exponential model where you get paid for what you've built or what your money does. And that shift is what actually makes not working possible, because there's no amount of hours you could work at job that would create same wealth potential as properly leveraged investments or businesses. What's significant is your approaching decision about when to actually quit. You're probably agonizing over timing, whether to leave job now and go all in on building wealth, whether to keep job while building income streams until they're substantial enough to fully replace salary, whether to negotiate part-time arrangement as transition. And making that call requires assessing your risk tolerance, your financial runway, your confidence in income sources you're building. You might be running detailed projections of best case, worst case, likely case scenarios. And Giving yourself permission to make decisions based on data rather than fear is crucial because fear will always say it's too risky, while ambition might push you to jump before you're ready. This reflection invites you to consider whether you're someone who needs to leap and then build wings on the way down, or whether you're someone who needs runway fully built before you take off, because neither approach is wrong, but knowing your style prevents you from forcing yourself into strategy that doesn't match your nervous system's needs. Um, you're probably experiencing people in your life having strong reactions to your plans. You might be encountering skepticism from family who think you're being irresponsible, concern from friends who worry you'll fail, resentment from coworkers who wish they could leave but feel stuck. And navigating those external voices while staying true to your own vision is requiring boundaries you haven't had to enforce before. You could be learning that not everyone can celebrate your success is less than Hasson. Zero hash is greater than. That some people's identities are built on struggle, and your escape from it feels like judgment of their choice to stay, and protecting your dreams from other people's fears or projections is essential skill for actually achieving financial independence. What I'm witnessing in the soft life blueprints is you're being invited to redefine success on your own terms. You're probably realizing that conventional markers of achievement, prestigious job, climbing corporate ladder, impressing others with title matter less than quality of your daily experience. And that soft life isn't about being lazy, but about being intentional. You might be understanding that working hard at something you love is completely different from working hard at something you tolerate for money. And that financial independence gives you luxury of only doing former while avoiding latter entirely. The liberation frequencies suggest you're experiencing or about to experience your relationship with mornings completely transform. You're probably going to discover what it feels like to wake naturally without alarm, to lie in bed as long as you want, to start day with meditation or exercise or creative work instead of immediately jumping into obligations. And that shift in how you begin each day is going to affect your entire quality of life. You might be someone who's been sleep deprived for years because you had to wake up for job, and finally getting adequate rest, finally living in alignment with your natural rhythms instead of forcing yourself to function on schedule that doesn't fit you, is going to improve your health, mood, and energy in ways that make soft life valuable beyond just the financial aspects. What's also emerging is understanding that soft life requires active management. You're probably realizing that not working doesn't mean doing nothing. It means carefully managing investments, maintaining income streams, continuing to develop skills and relationships that support your financial independence, and recognizing that soft life is actually work, just different kind, is helping you set realistic expectations. You might be understanding that you're not retiring from all effort. You're retiring from selling your time in ways that don't align with your values. And that distinction is crucial because people who think financial independence means permanent vacation often end up broke because they stop tending the systems that generate their income. This reflection invites you to consider what structure and purpose you'll create for yourself when external obligations don't provide them, and whether you have enough internal motivation and discipline to thrive in unstructured environment, or whether you'll need to consciously build routines and commitments that give shape to your days. You're probably noticing possibilities opening that weren't available when you were working full time. You might be experiencing ability to be present for family in ways job prevented, to pursue creative projects that don't generate income, to volunteer for causes you care about, to mentor people who are where you used to be. And discovering that wealth's real value isn't stuff you can buy, but freedom to spend time on what matters is shifting your relationship with money entirely. You could be realizing that you were never actually motivated by money itself. You were motivated by freedom and security and ability to live on your own terms. And now that you're approaching or achieving those things, the money is just means to end rather than end itself. So, as you approach this extraordinary possibility of never having to work again in traditional sense, embrace the full magnitude of what's shifting. You're probably tempted to downplay it, to hedge your bets, to maintain fallback options because committing fully to vision of soft life feels too vulnerable. But what if you let yourself fully want this? What if you claimed it as your actual future instead of just entertaining it as pleasant fantasy? Trust that you're capable of creating and sustaining financial independence. You're probably doubting yourself, questioning whether you're smart enough or lucky enough or positioned well enough. But you wouldn't be approaching this threshold if you weren't ready. The opportunity is appearing because you've been preparing for it. Through skills you've developed, relationships you've built, risks you've taken, discipline you've maintained, even when results weren't visible yet. Welcome to the soft life. It's not here completely yet, but you're on the doorstep. And whether you step through now or in 6 months or 2 years doesn't matter as much as recognizing you're actually going through that door. This isn't fantasy. This is your trajectory. And everything you do now is either accelerating or delaying an inevitable arrival at life where work is optional and freedom is your default state. You may never have to work again in the way you've been working. That's real. That's possible. That's your future if you keep building toward it. And letting yourself believe that, letting yourself plan for that, letting yourself become the person who lives that life, that's the work now. Not the grinding, not the hustling, just the believing and the building. You're almost there. Keep going. The soft life is waiting. You're exactly the kind of person who gets to live it. Welcome home.